Hey guys, Tyler from Game My Next Age, bringing you another episode of True Scary Story Time. And on this episode, we're gonna, guess what? Be reading true scary stories. Let's do this. This story is called My Mom Was Almost Abducted. My mother, who doesn't believe in any sort of hokey nonsense, once told me a story where one night her and a couple of her friends were driving home one night after hanging out, no drugs or alcohol involved, of course. They were crossing a bridge when suddenly their car died, and then all the streetlights cut off. Then they heard a throbbing sound, like a large engine idling, and saw a flash of lights cross overhead rapidly. A few moments later, all of the lights came back on, and then the car started back up immediately. A bit unnerved, they continued home. A few days later, the Pascagoula abduction story was on the news. Apparently, they encountered the same craft that supposedly took those two men. This story is called It's Still There, Waiting. When I was 17, I went to my friend's house for some beers for his birthday. I probably only had about 5 drinks. Come the early hour of the morning, probably around 2 or 3 a.m., I head to the kitchen for a drink. I pour a drink of water and turn around and take a sip. And as I'm swallowing, I swear I hear footsteps. The ground in the entire room is all made up of tiles. So I hold my drink down and listen for a few seconds. Next thing I know, I hear fast footsteps in front of me running toward me, and suddenly a huge cold breeze blows right through me. At this point, I just freak out and run back to the bedroom. I ended up waking my friend up and telling him what happened, and we listened and could hear odd things banging and bumping from out there, but nothing out of the ordinary after that ever happened. I'll always remember it, though. It gives me goosebumps to this day. This story is called There's a Little Boy Named Charlie Who Lives in Our House. My nephew lives with me in an old farmhouse built in the 1840s. When he was about 4, maybe 5, he told me that there was a little boy named Charlie who lived in our house. He said Charlie had never heard of video games, and that Charlie's dad left him home all by himself. This was around the time that he had an imaginary friend named Mr. Cat, so I wrote it off as his imagination. A couple weeks later, I was shaving with the bathroom door open, and thought I could see my nephew kind of looking in at me out of the corner of my eye. I stuck my head around and could see him from behind, messing with an old china cabinet we kept important stuff in, and just as I walked into the room, I could see my nephew sitting in the living room watching TV. He couldn't have crossed that much distance that fast and silently. I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, that was Charlie. He says there's a really weird book in there from when you were a little boy. And at the bottom of a sack of old documents and stuff in the china cabinet, there was a book I got as a gift when I was a kid. I didn't even know it was there. It was under 2 boxes of documents and couldn't be seen until the boxes were lifted out. The little boy didn't look like you would think a ghost would look like. He wasn't transparent, he didn't float, he didn't even look spooky. He just looked like an average kid. Now I'm convinced that people see ghosts all the time. Every day, in fact. And they just don't realize it, because they look just as real as we do.